Hi everybody, and welcome back to Creative Adventures. It's finally happening. I am making soap today. Today we are making Relaxing Lavender cold process soap. This is one of the two kits that I recently ordered from Brambleberry. They came in a couple of weeks ago, but I've been traveling and I've had cake orders and I've had my normal day job and I just haven't had time to actually sit down and make the soap. So today I've got some free time and we're finally gonna delve into this and see how easy or not it is. I guess we'll see. This is considered a true beginner soap. There's only one color being mixed into this. There's only one fragrance oil. I mean, I've seen some pretty elaborate soaps online where there's, 4 or 5, even more colors that they have swirled together in these like really intricate designs. And people are mixing different fragrance oils and essential oils together to get these really complex scents. This is not that. This is a very, very simple soap. Like I said, it's a lavender essential oil. We've got one color going into it, which is this ultramarine violet oxide pigment. So some really simple mixing. This soap doesn't have to be mixed to a specific consistency to go into the mold. We're actually going to mix it pretty thick and just pour it in and kind of spoon the top to make it look pretty. But anyway, I've already got most of my ingredients out, and if you'll remember, I've already gone over a lot of these ingredients in my unboxing video, I did that, I think I posted that about a week ago. So I'll put that link up in the corner. I think it's this corner. It might be this one. I don't know. One of these corners is gonna have a link. So, anywho, I'm just gonna dive right in. I've watched about 1 million videos on soap making, and I do have my little instruction sheet here that they sent. First things first, we need to make sure that we are protected because we are going to be working with sodium hydroxide, which is lye. This is a corrosive product and it will burn your skin, it will burn your eyes. If you swallow it, it can be fatal. So this is serious stuff. So first things first, you want to make sure you have gloves on. You want to have safety goggles, and it actually did recommend that you have long sleeves in case you splash some on your arms. You don't want to get it on your bare skin. So I'm gonna have to take my wedding ring off. I'm gonna try not to lose that. Let's put it in my pocket. Okay, and now that I'm burning up hot, very briefly, what is soap? Soap is a mixture of a fat and sodium hydroxide. Those two things combined together, they go through a chemical process called saponification, and it turns that fat into soap. You can use tons of different oils, tons of different butters in your soaps. Everything from olive oil and canola oil to rice bran oil and castor oil. I mean, there's all different kinds of recipes out there for cold process soaps. You can use butters like shea butter, cocoa butter. All of these different oils and butters have different, or they lend different properties to your soap. So some are more cleansing, some create more lather, some are more moisturizing, that sort of thing. So this particular blend that comes with this kit, the oil blend, I actually don't know what the oils are in this blend. It just says it is the Lots of Lather Quick Mix. I hope you can see that from this far away. It says you can look on the website to see what oils are in it. I never did that. I just know that this particular blend is meant to be very lathery. So this bag that the oils come in can actually be microwaved and boiled. I don't think that this recipe actually needs you to heat these oils up because they're actually already liquid. A lot of oils and butters used in soaps are actually hard. They're hard oils. Like coconut oil, it's a hard oil. So you have to melt them down before you can use them. But since this one is actually already liquid, we probably don't even need to do that. I also have my ultramarine violet oxide pigment. This is a natural pigment. That's going to be what colors our soap. I have lavender 4042 essential oil. And then I have grade 1 lavender, dried lavender buds. These actually will be sprinkled on the top. And I go more in depth into this in that unboxing video. I have a large mixing bucket. This is actually made for chemicals. This is a chemical mixing bucket. It holds 120 ounces. I don't need one that big this time, but that's what I got. I have a 4-cup glass, Pyrex measure to mix my lye water in. Now, there have been quite a few forum discussions online about whether it is safe to use glass or Pyrex to mix lye water. A lot of people say don't. They say use only stainless steel. I know you cannot use aluminum because aluminum reacts with lye, but stainless steel is another option if you're not comfortable using glass. I'm gonna stick with this. The Soap Queen, Anne Marie from Brambleberry, actually does use Pyrex for mixing her lye water. She gave a pretty good explanation on a forum I was reading about how, you know, we're not getting the lye up to molten temperatures and we're diluting the lye with water. So in 15 years, she's never had a problem using Pyrex to measure out her lye water. So it's up to you. If you're not comfortable using Pyrex, don't do it. Go get a stainless steel container. It's not that big of a deal. I'm gonna stick with this. I think we'll be okay because we're starting with room temp water, or actually cold water, tap water. So, yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I have my scale. It goes down to a 1/10 of an ounce. You want to have something that precise to measure your ingredients. Everything in soap is measured by weight, not by volume. So you want to be sure you have a good scale that goes down that precisely. Let's see, I also have some sodium lactate here. This is an additive that you can put in soap. It's an optional additive that makes it harden faster. So that means I'll be able to unmold the soap sooner. It also makes it get harder overall, which I think they probably included it with this kit since all of these oils are liquid. This is just 99% alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and it's in a spray bottle. You use this type of alcohol to spritz the top of your soap to prevent soda ash from forming. Soda ash doesn't hurt anything on a soap, it just doesn't look as nice, so this helps prevent that from happening. I have a silicone spatula for mixing my soap batter in this bucket. I have a teaspoon measure that I will be using to make sure this is the right amount of pigment because I think it's a little too much, we'll see. And I have a infrared thermometer, and this is gonna be so that I can measure my lye water so that I make sure I get it within about 10 degrees of my oils before mixing the two together. And last but not least, I have my mold. This is the silicone mold that came with the kit. So this batch should fit into it perfectly. And I just have it sitting on some newspaper on a baking tray. And I've only done that because I know when I get done here, I'm gonna need to move this to another room so I can close the door and make sure my dogs or cats don't get into it. So I figured this would make it easier to move. So I will set that to the side until we need it. One other thing, I just put down some newspaper on my table. I have a glass, I moved into my dining room because I have a nice big glass table, so I have a lot of good surface area to work on. And I just put down some newspaper to protect my work surface. But I think that's about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure out my separate ingredients and then we will get started. Okay, I have my gloves on, I have my safety goggles on. In my glass container here, I've got 10 ounces weighed of water. So I weighed this on the scale. It is not by volume, but it is 10 ounces of water. And the next thing we need to do is we need to weigh out our sodium hydroxide, which is our lye. As you can see, there are about 1 million warning labels on this thing. Oh, and just FYI, if you're gonna try making soap without a kit, and you don't want to wait to order lye online like I did, you actually can get this at many hardware stores. It's a drain cleaner as well, so yeah, true story. So let me just show you what these look like. So they come in a crystal form. They're just a dried crystal, and we're gonna weigh out 4.7 ounces of this for this particular recipe. So let me turn my scale on. We're already on ounces, so I don't know why I'm trying to do it that way. Okay. So we got 10 ounces of water. We've got 4.7 ounces of lye. And another thing to note, you never want to pour your water into your lye because it can erupt into a volcano. Lye is going to react with water. It could foam up, and it's also going to get very, very hot, which is why people argue over whether you can use glass or Pyrex containers or not. Once I pour this lye into the water, it's gonna get up to between 180 and 190 degrees. And we're gonna have to let that cool down quite a bit, which will probably take about an hour. So I'm gonna get this in, get it mixed up, and then we will let this rest to cool down. Oh man, that's really cool. So I don't know if you can see the steam forming on the measuring cup, but it sure is. It's steaming already. Oh, steam is coming up off of it. Holy cow. It's like a science experiment in my kitchen, and this is awesome. I'm like so amused right now. Let's test this temperature and see how hot it is. Holy cow. That's really cool. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's at 185 degrees. Oh man, that is so neat. So all of the first videos I watched on making soap really didn't explain this part. They kept saying that you needed to let your lye water get down to room temperature, or at least down to like 120 degrees. And I was like, well, do you boil it? What's happening here? Because I don't know anything about what happens when you mix lye with water. I've never had a reason to know that. So I guess I've just never had a drain clogged where I needed to know that. So this is really cool. 176. Yeah, so it's gonna take a little while for this to cool down enough for us to use it. So while that's cooling down, I'm gonna go make sure I have the rest of my ingredients prepped, and then it's just a waiting game after that. We'll be back in a bit. So while I was waiting the last few minutes for my lye water to cool down, I was reading the instructions over here, and it does actually say to completely melt down your oils. You want your oils and your lye water to be within about 10 degrees of each other. And it says to cool down our lye water until it's between 120 to 130 degrees. So right now we are at 119, so that's perfect. I know some soapers actually soap at room temperature, so this is good. So I did go ahead and just put my bag of oils in the microwave. And if you remember, they were liquid already, but they were still kind of an opaque color. It's completely translucent now. They are definitely melted down. So I just put this whole bag in the microwave because it is microwave safe. And just measured it from the outside, and we're at 116 right now, so that's perfect. They are within like 2 degrees of each other, 3 degrees of each other, sorry. So I'm going to open up my oils, and I'm going to, these are already weighed to the proper amount for this recipe. It's 33 ounces of oil. So I'm gonna pour that right into my big mixing bucket here, the whole thing. All right. Put that out of the way. Okay, so there is our bucket of oil. Okay, let me check the temp one more time. So out of the bag, we are at 118 degrees, and our lye water is now at 117. So they are almost the same temperature. So that is perfect. So let me read my instructions and see what I'm supposed to do next. One tool that I forgot to mention earlier, because I didn't actually just buy this, is a stick blender. You're definitely gonna wanna have one of these, and you're gonna wanna have one that has a stainless steel head. I didn't actually have to buy this one because I already owned it. You don't want to use tools from your kitchen that you're going to put back in your kitchen. You want to have tools dedicated for soaping. I never used this thing. It's been sitting in my cabinet for like 3 years and I don't think I've ever used it. So it is now officially dedicated to soaping. This is a KitchenAid brand. I think I actually got this for free with a different purchase. Like it was like an add-on thing that I didn't even ask for. So that's what I'm gonna use. I hear you can find these at thrift stores a lot or on eBay. Just be sure whatever one you get has a stainless steel head. Now, before I actually do start mixing stuff into my oils, there's a little bit of terminology I want to talk about because nobody has really explained that in any of the other videos I watched. I kind of had to go out searching for what some of these things meant. So when we start mixing our lye into our oils, it is going to start a process called saponification. And at first, when you're mixing with your stick blender, it's going to emulsify, just like if you were making some kind of a salad dressing. The next stage that it reaches is called trace, and there's kind of 3 degrees of trace. There's light, medium, and thick. Light trace is kind of the consistency of thin pudding. So it's like if you dip your stick blender in and lift it up, you'll see the strings of soap laying on top, but it'll sink back in relatively quickly. And then medium and thick are just, you know, thicker and thicker versions of that trace. So a lot of recipes or a lot of soap batters, if you're gonna be doing a bunch of colors and you're gonna be doing a bunch of pretty swirls and whatnot, then you want to have your soap batter at a light trace so that you can use tools in your mold to swirl the soap. This is not one of those soaps. This is one of the reasons this is considered a beginner soap. We're actually gonna mix this all the way to a thick trace. We're gonna let it get really thick, put it in the mold, and then just use a spoon to kind of smush the top of it into the shape we want. So the light trace, working with light trace and working with lots of colors is definitely more advanced. I know I'm not ready for that because this is the first time I've ever done this. So I wanted to pick something that I knew would be really easy to work with. So without further ado, let's see. The first thing it says to do is to add our pigment into our oils. So over here I've already set aside 1 teaspoon of the ultramarine violet oxide pigment. So we're just going to, we're just gonna dip that right in. It's kind of been a clump, but okay. And with the stick blender, it says to burp it on the bottom. And my dogs are gonna bark through all of this because they do not like the sound of this tool. So I apologize in advance, ain't nothing I can do about that. So burp it on the bottom to get all the bubbles out. And here we go, this is gonna be loud and I apologize. I'm just gonna kind of get all that oxide mixed in. It's definitely like sticking to the sides of the bowl. Go figure. See how dark that is. Very lovely. Okay, I think that's about as mixed as it needs to be. It is a lovely shade. So next we are going to, let's see. It didn't tell me to add the, when do I add the sodium lactate? Blah, 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 blah. Well, shit, I was supposed to add the sodium lactate to the lye mixture. Oh, I can still do that. How much? What? 2 teaspoons. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of sodium lactate to my lye water. Use the same teaspoon. Well, I'm gonna use the other end of it. And 1 and 2. I'm gonna mix that in real well. Okay. And now I'm gonna go rinse these off. Okay. My blender again, and now we are ready to pour our lye water into our oil mixture with the pigment. You're gonna wanna pour it down the stick blenders, down the shaft of the stick blender, and then we're gonna pulse the blender just until it begins to emulsify, which means that the saponification process has begun. All right, so we're gonna pour this in. Try not to get any more bubbles in there. Try not to get all of that mixture in. Okay. Move this over a little bit. Ooh, that's weird. Wow. It's getting like really creamy. Ooh, wow, that's really weird. That's like, you can feel it firming up. Like, as you're blending it, you can feel it firming up and like pulling your blender around. Really strange. It's warm. It's really warm. So we're not at trace yet. We want to get it at thin trace. Oops. That's a good way to get bubbles in there. Oh well. It's such a strange feeling. Oh, let's get it thick now. All right, we have finally reached trace. I don't know if you can see that or not, but when I lift the blender out of the batter, it like leaves a very slight trail where it's dripping. That is super thin trace. So I'm gonna stop right now, and next we're gonna add in our essential oil. So this is our fragrance. And they sent 2 ounces. It said if you like a strong scent to go ahead and use the full 2 ounce bottles, or if you just like a light scent to use 1 ounce. I actually like a strong scent, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the whole thing. So, I'm just going to pour this right in, the whole bottle. I'm just gonna kind of mix it with my blender first. And fragrance oils and essential oils have a tendency to speed up trace. So maybe the rest of this won't take as long. Grab my blender. And the goal that the trace consistency that we're looking for here is a thick trace. We want it to be able to hold a stiff peak when we put it in the mold. It's starting to get thick pretty quick now. It's like pudding. I mean, it really like has the texture of pudding. It's kind of weird, but it certainly does not smell like pudding. I wonder if I could make a soap that smelled like pudding. I'm gonna have to look into that. I think we're there. I think we're at a point where we can pour this in the mold now. So I'm going to use my spatula to scrape as much of this off of the stick blender as I can. Maybe. Now, we have our 10-inch loaf mold. This came with the kit, so it should perfectly hold this entire batter. And this is a very thick batter, so I'm gonna have to scrape it into the mold somewhat. I'm just gonna pour it right in. And let me spread that out a little bit. some and give it to settle down in the mold. Okay. And scrape the rest of this in there. Oops, I'm making a mess. I fully expected that to happen. I'm just gonna try to spoon the rest of this. Okay. Now that we've got that all in the mold, let's spread it out a little bit and I'm gonna give it another tap on the counter here in a second. Give it a tap, make it sink down in there and settle some in the mold. And then I have a teaspoon measure over here, and I'm just gonna use the back of it to kind of smush down the sides. To make a peak in the middle. Yeah. I think that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and take my gloves off for this because I need to open this package of lavender and I don't know if I can do it with these gloves on. You want to be really careful taking your gloves off even at this point because fresh soap, even though that lye is mixed into the oils and it's already started saponifying, it can still burn you. So you don't want to get your hands anywhere near it. But I could not get this package open. Hell, I can't even get the damn thing open without gloves on, so I'm gonna go get some scissors. One moment. Okay, there we go. Now I've got the package open. So yeah, my gloves are off. You don't wanna touch any of the fresh soap because it can burn you, but I needed to take my gloves off to get the package open. So these are the dried lavender buds, and we're just gonna sprinkle these along the top however much we want, I guess, because this looks like a whole hell of a lot of lavender. I don't think I need all of it. So I'm just gonna sprinkle these like down the middle. Oh my god, it smells so good. That lavender essential oil too, man. That stuff just smelled super strong. As soon as I opened the bottle, I was like, holy crap. And the soap, like it just smells delicious. The whole thing smells good. I really do wanna make like some kind of a soap that it smells like I could eat it, because I don't know why, but that just seems like a good idea. So I'm concentrating the lavender buds on that center peak and then just kind of letting a couple fall down the sides. This is gonna be so pretty. All right, I am pleased with that. And yeah, like, look how much of this I have left, seriously. Guess I'll be making more lavender soap in the future. Anywho, final step. 99% rubbing alcohol. We're gonna spritz the whole top of the loaf with the alcohol, lavender and all. I'm giving it a good spritz actually. That'll probably hold down that lavender and it's gonna keep our, or it's going to help at least, help prevent soda ash from forming on the top of the mold, or on the top of the soap. So yeah, we did it, guys. This is our first soap. Obviously it's still very warm and still very liquidy, so we need to let this set up and harden. Now the instructions that came with this say you need to let it stay in the mold for 2 to 3 days. Yeah, every soaper I've ever watched on YouTube has never let it sit that long. Maybe it's this particular recipe because it used all soft oils, I'm not sure. But it does say you can try to unmold it after 2 days. So that's probably what I'll do. I'll probably wait. I don't know. I may get impatient. Who the hell knows? I may wait, like get impatient and try it tomorrow. We'll see. I'm gonna try to wait 2 days, and yeah, we'll pull it away from the mold. And then as soon as we unmold it, I will cut it and show you what it looks like. Now, cold processed soap cannot be used immediately. It needs to cure for at least 6 weeks. These instructions say 4 to 6 weeks. Most instructions I've seen have said 6 to 8 weeks, so I'll probably go with the latter, or in the middle ground, and go with 6 weeks. So obviously I am not going to be filming me using this soap anytime soon, but perhaps in 6 to 8 weeks I will come back and we'll give it a trial run under the sink, and I can show you how well it works, if it really does have lots of lather. So for now, I'm just going to set this aside, and we'll be back in a couple of days to unmold it and cut it. So we'll see you then. Hey guys! So I managed to be patient, and I waited 2 full days before trying to unmold my soap. So we're back, and I'm gonna unmold it now, cut the soap, and show you what it looks like actually cut into bars. And this is really the finished product. Like I said before, it's got to cure for about 6 weeks before I can actually use it, so I won't get to film actually using the soap and seeing if it has lots of lather for at least 6 weeks, so don't look for that anytime soon. But let's get to cutting and see how it turned out. Alright, so here it is. This is the finished soap. It is completely solid now. It's already started to pull away from the sides on its own, so that's a good sign. So from everything I read, I'm going to pull all the sides away, releasing that airlock. See if I can do it this way so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, it's coming right out. Like, this is not an issue. So I'm going to have to just, some of these lavender buds are going to fall off, but that's okay. Smells really good. Oh, you know what? It's actually still a little bit soft, because you can see on the bottom here, I mushed it some. So yeah, maybe I should have waited the full 3 days. I did the 2 days like it said, but that's okay. First batch of soap, I am pleased anyway. Like, totally not upset about that. So I'm gonna turn it on its side to cut it. And let me look at my instructions real quick just to see like how many bars I'm actually supposed to cut from this mold. Okay, the instructions don't actually say that there's a specific number of bars to cut it into, so I'm just gonna, let's see, that's the halfway mark. I'm just gonna score it, I think, and kind of figure it out from there. Let's see. These are gonna be big bars of soap. I don't care. They're for personal use. They're for me. So I think I'm going to cut this into 8 bars. Hey, why not? Why not? They're going to be big, huge bars of soap. So now that I've got my score marks, I'm just going to cut right down through it. There's what my soap looks like finished. Lovely. This is a lot softer. I mean, I have to admit, this is a lot softer than I was expecting it to be at this point. And again, this recipe uses all soft oils. There are no hard oils in this one. So I'm wondering if maybe that's why, because a lot of the soapers that I've watched on YouTube, they actually unmold their soaps after like a day, sometimes not even 24 hours. So I don't know how they get them out of their molds without messing up the edges like I did. Last cut. And I just cut into the one up here, but that's okay. Again, these are just for personal use. No big deal. Some of these are like completely uneven too. Oh well. So here's a couple more of my soaps. Pretty lavender on top. You can see how this soap has a little ring of darkness in the middle. That's from going through what's called the gel phase. After you mold your soaps up, they actually get hotter in the mold. They get hotter over a period of time, and that's called the gel phase. Gel phase can actually intensify some of your colors. So it looks like I did go through a little bit of a gel phase, even though I didn't insulate my soaps. If you want your soap to go through gel phase, you can actually insulate your mold with towels and, you know, slightly cover it to hold that heat in, and it will force it to go through a gel phase. I didn't do that, but it does look like it gelled a little bit in the middle. If you don't want your soaps to gel at all, I know some people put them in the refrigerator, especially if you're doing a soap that has milk in it, because you don't want those milks to get too hot because they'll scald and can smell funky, and that's just not good. So some people do refrigerate their soaps if they don't want it to go through a cold phase or a gel phase. So another thing I bought was just a vegetable peeler. It still has a protective tape on it. And I saw that a lot of people will bevel the edges of their soaps just to create a nice finished edge. And they make tools specifically for doing this for soap. But, you know, I was like, I'm not gonna go that hardcore right now. But that looks really nice though. I mean, it just gives it like a nice, I don't know if you can really see the difference on here, but maybe if I turn it that way you can see it. It gives it a nice finished beveled edge. That looks super nice. Okay, so final verdict on soaping. I really like this, and I can see how this could be a craft where you can get really creative. Not just with fragrance and colors and additives and like your recipe itself, but with designs too, because like I said, I've seen lots of like soapers on YouTube that do like all of these like ridiculous crazy swirls. There's like names for these techniques. There's hanger swirls and butterfly swirls and drop swirls and all kinds of different techniques you can use. I've seen people make embeds that actually look like landscapes and create soaps that look like freaking paintings. So you can get really creative with this in a way I never would have imagined possible. So yeah, you know what, the overall process, it was easy. It was a little scary at first because you're working with some harsh chemicals, and I'm just like, you know, they make it sound so dire. You got to suit up and make sure you're completely covered and got your safety goggles on and your gloves, but it wasn't that scary once I got started. It was actually really cool, kind of like I was doing a science experiment in my kitchen. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it was a great kit to start out with, being a beginner. Like I said many times throughout the video, it was a very simple recipe to use. It was a very simple color scheme and fragrance. There was no mixing I had to do. I didn't have to do any calculations. It was all done for me. So it gave me good insight into the process itself. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do this again. I have that one other kit that I bought from Brambleberry, which is like a citrus scented 2-layer soap that has dried marigold calendula in one half of it for exfoliation. So that's the next one that I'm going to make. It's a little bit more advanced technique, but still not too advanced. It's still considered a beginner soap, but it's a little more advanced than this one. I'm really excited to try it now though, because now that I've got a feel for the process and the flow of things, I think it'll go a lot quicker and a lot smoother. Not that this took a long time. Like, I think I maybe spent an hour of active time putting this together. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Now what I really can't wait for is getting into some more of those advanced designs, but I'm going to stick with some of the beginner stuff first and really get a good feel for it. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me learn to do something new. I hope it was informative, and I hope you learned from some of my mistakes along the way, because there were a couple. But yeah, there will definitely be more soap in the future. If you like this video, please give me the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, where I will be doing all kinds of creative ventures in the future. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.